Hi, I'm Laura Michelle Kelly and I'm here to take you through my album, The Storm Inside, and I'm just going to talk about the different tracks that are on the album and how they came to be. The first track on the album is called Riverman, and when I was first talking to labels about being signed, one of the record labels came up with she played me this song by Nick Drake when we were talking about what we want the album to be inspired by and involving, and this song just stood out to me. I'm ashamed to say I never heard of Nick Drake before, but I'm a huge fan now, and the song was just perfect. It just said everything that I wanted to say, and it's a very emotional song, and it seemed to just connect with me, and I knew it would go perfectly with what we were doing. So that's Riverman. There Was a Time is my second song that I wrote. I wrote it with Pete Vitesse and Felix Howard at Sphere Studios, and it was the first time I'd met them. And Pete Vitesse is a very cosmic kind of guy, an intellectual cosmic guy, and he said the night before he'd been thinking about me, and he wanted to, and this is what he came up with the melody, the background orchestration of what he thought I might like and what he felt the cosmic was telling him. And so he already had that ready, and I'd previously listened to songs on the radio on the way there thinking, God, there's so many songs about how other people have done you wrong, and you know, it's all your fault kind of songs. Whereas I was in the place where I'm thinking, recognising my faults, and I wanted to write a song about that, about me being at the wrong for a change, and then realising after it was too late, and the possibility of the future. If life is a puzzle, then you make it simple. Sweet Solution is about, you know, love being the answer to everything. Despite, you know, even amidst all the craziness. Jamie Cullum had written so many songs for his album, and we'd gotten to know each other and bumped into each other a lot. And I'd asked him to hear any of his spare songs, because we needed an upbeat song. We'd had a lot of songs already on the album, and we were looking for something that would fit. And it fitted the bill. We heard the beginning of it, we loved the vibe, and it just kind of stopped dead in the middle of it. And we begged him to make time to finish it off for us so that we could do it. And he did, and that's Sweet Solution. You can also, if you listen very carefully, you can hear him singing in the background. It's also him playing on the album too, on the track. You Do Something to Me. You Do Something to Me was a song that touched me when I was a teenager. It really touched me growing up, and it kind of encapsulates all the feeling of young love that you get when you're that age and how traumatizing it can be. And all this time I've carried it with me as one of my favourite songs by Paul Weller. And so when we were talking about what songs we wanted, that was one of the first, because it's never been, I've never heard a woman sing it, and it changes the whole feel of the song, but it still stays true to the lyrics. So I definitely wanted to do this song, and I knew it would feel like the James Bond inspiration we wanted, with the big orchestrations, the John Barry kind of feel, with we wanted the Annie Lennox type of backing vocals, and we knew it would fit perfectly for that. So. Butterflies, they only live. Okay, so Butterflies was a song that I started writing with Guy Chambers and Neil Hannon from the Divine Comedy, and it was near the end of our session, and we weren't supposed to be thinking about writing any more songs, but during the day I'd been thinking about a field of daffodils was about to open. And I was thinking about, it was in remembrance of cancer patients and victims. So I was thinking along those lines, and about how you lose someone, and you know you do stuff to remember them. And I'd come up with this melody, and I'd come up with 3 chords or something, and I played them to Guy, and I knew if he'd got excited about it that he'd just run with it, because that's the type of person he is. And I managed to convince him at like half an hour to go to put this down, and well, he got excited about it and sat down and he continued. And it started off being daffodils, and it ended up being more symbolic to call them butterflies, how they are renewed, they're transformed from something into something else, and how they kind of are fluttering. Every time I see a butterfly, it's like an angel's kiss, like especially the white ones, and that's what I was picturing when I was writing this song. Neil was working on the introduction and the outro and the middle eight while we were upstairs doing the lyrics, and we brought it together downstairs. It's like 2 floors in his studio. He's very posh, and we put it all together and it just fitted. And we only started off with one chorus and one verse, two verses, and it wasn't finished. But in the end, we realised how simple it was. The simpler it was, the better, and it ended up being practically the same. So we did all that in like half an hour. That's Butterflies. Reach out for me, don't you worry, I'll see you through. Reach Out. We were realising we needed a lot more upbeat stuff on the album, because, you know, I'm upbeat. I'm kind of kooky and upbeat anyway. And we wanted to get a good old Burt Bacharach song. And they came up with, Tris Penner, who was consulting on the album, came up with Reach Out For Me, which has not been done so much. But also Four Tops did a version of it too. And they're so blimmin' similar, we ended up putting both of them together, which is a little bit cheeky. And we are. And we decided that it was going to have this crazy... Marius came up with this fantastic middle 8 break of one version, and the rest is another. So you have to look out for that. But that's not an invitation. Communication was the last song that we ever recorded for the album. It happened after we thought we'd finished it. And we heard it, and especially Mark Collin, who's the head of Angel Records, he loved it, and so we kind of like, okay, let's see how it sounds. But Marius came up with a really inventive way of adding different instruments that sounded very much like people trying to communicate with you, and it made it a really interesting vibe, and it fitted quite well with the album. So yeah, that was the last one we did, but it meant a lot. It kind of encapsulated the whole album, which is talking about feelings and how you're doing and different seasons of your life. It's almost like the soundtrack to my life, really. And one of the parts that you didn't get is all about communication, trying to communicate how you're feeling with somebody. And that's what this song is about, and about how you have to disconnect in order to connect with somebody. You have to disconnect from the past, disconnect from issues that you have to face in order to connect with someone. And for me, that was really important, that this album sounded like that. If I could change enough of a part, I'd be Stumbling. During the early days, I was working with Grant Black to see if we were going to write together. And he happened to have this song that's called Stumbling, and I heard it and I fell in love with it. And there was a couple of other songs too that, you know, that were also as magic as this, but this was our favourite. So we ended up doing this song on the album because it was almost like a campfire-y kind of feel. I could really see it in my head that you're in the middle of a forest and you're around the fire, and you know, you're thinking about, in a light way, not in a depressing way, thinking about a light way of saying, oh God, I keep messing up, as opposed to, God, I'm messed up and like, what do I do? Which is very much like, there was a time. I wanted to do a musical song because that's the world I've come from, and I love it. But we wanted to do it so that it fitted with everything on the album and that it was kind of crazy, because there are times when I can be a little bit crazy. And so we kind of made it a little bit loopy, literally losing my mind in a really crazy way. And so that's why that sounds like that. You'll hear it. It's very quirky. And the backing vocals for that was so much fun to do. Marius and I really bounced off each other who could come up with the craziest backing vocals. So it is a little bit kooky, and a little bit, it goes towards the end, it kind of, you really have lost it. So hopefully you like that one. Numb is a song that had all the qualities we could imagine, with the orchestrations that would match all the magical, ethereal feel that we had for everything else. But it was quite an early on song that we had. It was about people, it was actually originally about people giving up drugs and having to face that traumatic experience. But it also could be relevant to so many things about having to give up something and the feeling that you're heartbroken, but that there's a possibility of starting again. So the message was really clear to me. All the songs on the album, they had to really mean something. For me to be able to sing them every day, I wanted them to mean something completely honest and truthful. And Numb kind of fell into that category, and it's kind of very... We changed the arrangement the second time we recorded it, and it really has a lift right in the middle that makes your heart beat a little bit faster and you know, start thinking outside of this world, and it did that to me anyway. So that's it's one of my favourites on the album. They're all my favourites, but it's one of my favourites. The Storm Inside. It's one of the first songs that I ever wrote with Guy and Neil at the Mayfair Studios in Primrose Hill. One thing that Guy taught me about writing songs, he said, you have to have a song that the title of the song has to be very near the beginning or really quite soon. And it also, you've got to think, you know, think about what are you thinking of possibilities of the title of your album. And I was like, okay, so we all came up with, I wanted it to be about nature and about how wild the weather is. So we thought, let's go for something stormy, and then hence the storm inside, because inside you have all this stuff going on and you feel chaotic, and there can be just something that captures you out of all that chaos. Hence the storm inside. It's very much how we built the whole album around it, and it got me the deal with EMI. Really. Yeah, so it means a lot that the album's called The Storm Inside. Oh, simple thing, where have you gone? Somewhere Only We Know, every time, at the time of recording this album, it was absolutely huge. And someone played it to me and I thought, you know, it's a bit tricky having it so soon after another song's been released and it's done so well the way it is. But when someone mentioned to have it, you know, but Marius mentioned to have it, the violins with it. Oh, it made me think, yeah, that would be awesome. So we've done a completely chilled out version, completely just, don't have any drums on it, just have violins, big sweeping choir as well. The men's choir are gorgeous on it. And it's how you would imagine heaven singing that song. So, yeah. That's pretty much, the whole album's pretty much, to me, otherworldly and completely different dimension, which is what I wanted. When I hear albums, I want to be taken out into a different world, and that's what this album does to me. And it makes me very proud to be part of a team that were able to make that, and to have even been able to influence it to be the way it is now. It makes me feel very special. I hope it makes other people feel special.